Healers, and Mystics podcast. We're Gavin and Becky, your hosts and Reiki masters, where we'll uncover firebrands, take the mystery out of spiritual history, and explore ancient and healing modalities. In the end, you'll take away healing, intuitive, and mystical insights to apply for everyday enlightenment. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. We are talking about the passing over of loved ones and what you can do in order to connect with them today. And I have the lovely Becky Gonzalez with me. I'm Gavin Powers, and we are your Reiki Master, Holy Fire Karuna Masters, and we are going to give you some insights into what we know and what we've experienced and what we recommend. Welcome, Becky.
Hello.
Hello. This has been a really amazing talk about death. Let's go ahead and delve into what you can do to connect with your loved ones after they've passed. Becky, do you want to go ahead and start?
Okay, this is a common question that I do get from people, and a lot will say, I want to talk to my ancestors, I want to talk to my grandmother, I want to talk to blah, 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 and I can't. So one of the things I recommend is try cooking with them. They call it cooking with the ancestors. And the way I'll do it is I want to connect with grandma, right? So I would think of grandma and I would think of one of her dishes and try to replicate the dish. But I make it a point to listen. Am I hearing for ingredients? Am I hearing for things that I normally wouldn't hear? For me, I usually hear, and this is the funniest thing, when it's like I don't use enough seasoning, I hear, and that is my hint that I need to put more of whatever it was.
Yeah.
And if it's an ingredient that I haven't used, it'll just come up to me like, basil, boom. Or it'll, mustard seed or this or that or garlic. But the funniest one, and I know it's my dad when I hear, that's his sign for, what's that for? Because when he was around, he would always say that I never served my husband enough food, that I would never serve him enough. And then when I would serve my food, it was like a little bit. And so he'd always go, So when I'm cooking, and here's the thing, now I did it so much that I don't even have to like focus. I could be cooking and hear, and I'm like, okay, I will put more salt. Okay, I hear you.
I love that.
That is one suggestion. And it doesn't have to be their exact, recipe. Let's say you didn't know grandma, you don't know how to make her red rice, or you never saw her because you were too young. Just take a moment, clear out your space, however you do it energetically, clear the room, clear the area. And then just ask her, hey, grandma, I want to make some rice. And if you'd please guide me, I would really appreciate it.
I love that, Becky. I love that. I'm going to do that the next time I'm spending time thinking about my mom, because that takes it to a whole nother level. I mentioned in the last episode that what I do is on my mom's birthday and on the day that she passed, I will take the whole day off. I do stuff that we used to do together. So, we'll go out in nature. I'll go down by the water. Maybe I'll go on a sailboat, or she loved to shop. That's just kind of an excuse for me to go shopping. I don't know how healthy that is, but we'd always go shopping and then we'd go to Nordstrom's, and that was sort of like our mother-daughter thing, or we'd have tea or what have you. So there's lots of different things that we did. So you can always mix it up. And I love it because every year that I do it, I remember a new memory that I may not have had remembered since that event. So there's things that I hadn't remembered in years that come back. And it's such a beautiful, connective experience. And it turns something that could be very sad or upsetting, or you might feel a lot of mourning or grief about someone, and it turns it into just this very joyful memory. And I remember the first year that I did it, it was just me, and I literally just had this euphoria of, I felt like my mom felt like she was so excited that I was celebrating her day with her, and I felt like she had packed my car with a bunch of my other ancestors, and we were just going and celebrating her birthday, and I had such a great day. I loved it, and so I do that every year. One of the things I love to make is either strawberry shortcake or pineapple upside down cake, because she used to make those, and those were two of her favorites. And they always bring me joy while I'm making them and then eating them. And I think it's just such a lovely way to honor people that you love and remember them. And then, because my son never met my mom, I tell him stories about her. And so he gets to learn about her and appreciate her and hear all these things about her. And it's in a really positive way and not like a super sad, unhappy, like grief stricken way. And so he becomes a part of it as well. It's just a nice, beautiful way, I think, to have your loved ones stay around.
I'm going to talk about something near and dear to me. Culturally, we're taught to feel guilty and to mourn and to, it's all negative, right? It's just
Yeah.
the way religion is and cultural stuff. But when I started to heal really deeply, I got to this point, and the point was I realized, and this is how much I healed. I realized that I didn't have to go to the cemetery and cry and mourn there
Hmm.
every week to show that I was grieving, that I missed my father, that I loved him.
Hmm.
Instead, I realized I have him here with me all the time.
Yeah.
What can I do to make things different and show him? So I remember I started off with the Reiki. I would send him Reiki, and it felt great.
Hmm.
And I remember I had wanted to connect with him, and I wanted to, be able to do a psychic reading. Like I help others connect to their loved
Yeah.
ones sometimes, and I
Yeah.
couldn't do it myself.
Hmm.
And I remember one day I thought, well, I'm going to hire AJ Barrera because he's amazing, who really is. Shout out, love him. And I'm going to hire him, and I'm going to get some messages from my dad. And I was really going to do it. Like my intention was like, I'm going to do it when I get home. Unlike the many other times that I said I was going to do it and didn't do it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'll be darned if my dad didn't come through and just like blah, 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 blah. And he told me all this stuff. And he's like, and I'm not doing this crap again. And he was out. And I remember I was like, hello? Well, I kid you not, since that day, when it comes to my cousin, he will
Hmm.
give me messages. If she's sad, I know. If she's stressed, I know.
Wow.
I won't even get into the details, but there have been things where I'm like, why did you share that with me? And yeah, I mean, one time he told me there was stuff going on. I was like, my intention was I'm going to call my cousin, but I was busy entertaining. She ended up calling me 2 days later on a Monday, but she didn't call me. Here's the funny part.
Hmm.
Her 9-month daughter, like the baby's like small, playing on the phone and
What?
managed to call me.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
got a missed call, but it wasn't her, it was her daughter. So she called back to apologize. And then I told her, my dad has a message for you. And I gave her the
Wow.
message, and she was like, oh my God, that Friday I was in tears and blah, blah, blah. And I needed this message. And I was just like, of course.
Yeah.
So that is when I realized how powerful just sending energy to our loved ones is, and being with them.
Yeah.
They will get their point across. But that's, for those of you that are Reiki practitioners and there's a loved one that you're missing, start with sending them energy, right? Run Reiki through you, also do some cooking with the spirits. Be creative. There are a lot of ways to connect to your loved ones. That one was a good one for me, and again, I got to that point where I was desperate, right? And he
Yeah.
was just like, no, you're not spending $200 for this BS, blah, 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 blah. Gave me the messages, and I was like,
Oh
whoa.
my gosh, that's so funny.
But that's how it works. A lot of different ways to get close to our ancestors. But to be honest with you, we all need to heal. There's a lot that we need to heal
Hmm.
from. Sometimes we think I don't need to heal, but remember, you're carrying your ancestors' DNA, right? Generational trauma.
Absolutely. Generational
Oh,
trauma. That
so
stuff's been passed down for centuries, sometimes
absolutely.
millennia of unhealed trauma that's now
Absolutely.
still acting out within your DNA, within the patterns that you've inherited from your family members.
And that's one of the things I'll tell people, when they come to me as a client and they're like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'll tap in. And a lot of times the first thing I hear is they need to heal. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and I hate getting that as a message because sometimes it feels so generic. But then, I can pinpoint things. So it's kind of like, well, this, and that. But still, a lot of people hear that and they close down because that's not something they were taught.
Well, and the
Mm.
reality is, Becky, is that everybody needs to heal. Like, everybody needs to heal. I mean, you could be the most perfect person on the planet, but the reality is, you mentioned it before, generational trauma. And that stuff still needs to get cleared out of our systems because there's patterns that, we've heard about in the Bible, sins of the father are passed down through the son. It happens to you regardless of gender. That stuff, that all gets needs to get cleared. There's patterns that have happened to our ancestors, our parents, our grandparents, and if we don't clear that cycle, those cycles continue to perpetuate. And I also wanted to mention one thing that became really prevalent to me while you were talking is that what I love about the Reiki Holy Fire Karuna is that every time I've done another level of Reiki, because I truly believe that we're all intuitive. I think every human on this planet is intuitive, just to different levels. They process things differently, they experience that intuition differently, and they are aware of it differently. But I believe everyone's intuitive. And every step that I've done in the process of learning Reiki, Holy Fire, Karuna Reiki as well, is that I've become more intuitive, and I believe that we become more sensitive to energy as we're working with the holy fire and karuna, because the holy fire is Christ consciousness energy. So as you're tapping into that, you are experiencing this healing energy that already exists within the divine. And as you become more aware of it, you're becoming more attuned to that energy. And as you're becoming more attuned to that healing energy, you're becoming more intuitive yourself. And so you will find, if you go on the process of learning standard Reiki or Holy Fire Karuna Reiki, that your intuition will boost up every single time that you go into training, that you practice, that you heal others. It just gets more and more and more refined. And not only that, but your awareness of life around you, how you experience the world, how you see people, how you take in for information, all of that is a huge growth process. And this beautiful healing energy that's available to all of us is part of the divine. It's part of who we are, and it's part of healing ourselves and the planet. And it's part of
Absolutely.
healing all that generational trauma. It's really beautiful.
And here's the thing though too is what we don't realize is that every time you heal somebody, when you're using Reiki, you are healing a part of yourself. We have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people out there, and that's like my number one question when I get DMs,
Mm-hmm.
is how do I become, how do I evolve spiritually? Like, how do I open these gifts? And the example I will use is my own personal example. I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of gifts. There were a lot of things I was able to do, and I did them a lot when I was young, like just the
Mm-hmm.
knowing, just the,
Mm-hmm.
that just knowing things and predicting a lot of things. However, because of the way I grew up with the trauma that I had, childhood trauma, it closed
Mm-hmm.
everything down. So when I started working again to open up those intuitive abilities, I realized that the only thing holding me back was me and that I needed to
Yeah.
heal because I was
Yeah.
embarrassed to be wrong. I was
Yeah.
afraid to be wrong. I was
Yeah.
afraid somebody was going to laugh at me and say, "You said this was going to happen and it didn't happen." Arr! And it's like, I should be celebrating all the things that I said are going to happen that happened instead of waiting for somebody to hear, "Oh, that didn't happen." And
Mhm.
unfortunately, in the beginning, that really did affect me, and I would get
Mhm.
someone that said, "Hey, you said this and it didn't happen." And it's like, well, okay, I all I can do is deliver the message.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna do, right? But the healing part for me was really necessary. I really needed to heal. I needed to feel comfortable. I needed to feel safe. And again, that's not everybody's problem. But I think that if they really go deep, they
Mhm.
will find an aspect of them that needs to be healed.
Yes.
And sometimes, unfortunately, there's past life issues, right? I've had
Yeah.
clients who have blocked their own abilities because in a past life they did something really bad with their
Mhm.
gift, or they
Mhm.
made a mistake. I've had a healer that made a deadly mistake. She made a deadly cocktail for somebody when she was giving a treatment, herbs and stuff.
Mhm.
She ended up she felt like she had ended somebody's life because of a mistake she made,
Mm.
and that wasn't even what happened. So it was kind of like, oh, okay, so she blocked herself on this, in this lifetime, from being a healer because she was afraid of the outcome.
Wow.
So again, it all goes back to healing. We really do need to heal. If you can't find it on this in this lifetime or this 3D plane, it might be a past life issue that you need to sort out.
Yeah. Yeah. Or generational trauma, because stuff comes up that again keeps getting passed down, patterns that are passed down through families that you're just like, that is the strangest, most bizarre thing, and I can't believe that happened to not only one of your family members, but your grandmother, your mother, and you, or your father, your grandfather, and you. So it is so important to heal. And I believe that when we heal those aspects of ourselves, we are really healing ourselves on a soul level, and that is strengthening us and helping us move into a higher timeline. Sometimes I think people want to go get readings, and what they really need is what you're talking about, Becky, is they need to heal, because the reality is that the future's in flux. Everything's changing at any given point in time. We have free will. We can make different choices. We can heal. Imagine this. Imagine that you gave someone a reading, Becky, but they did some work on themselves and they healed, and what was going to happen now isn't happening because something better is now lining up for them. I mean,
Absolutely,
wouldn't that
that
be a
is the
beautiful
purpose.
thing?
That is the purpose, right? And
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because as a healer, we're all a little different and we all have select services and we do things different. I understand that, but it's really nice when you can get a psychic reading from a healer who can give you more than, hey, yeah, that relationship isn't going to work out with you and Tim. Sorry.
Mhm.
How about, right now, in the trajectory is it's not going to work out with you and Tim, but the reason is, and as a healer, I can say, look, I can feel your root chakra is you have a lot of fear in you. You have the fear that he's going to leave you. So you want to leave him first. Like we're able to give a lot more specifics, right? And
Right.
then, I've been able to say, like, and I can see in your sacral chakra that you have a problem with relationships. You already,
Mhm.
you're predispositioned to not want to try them because, maybe your family history, your parents divorced and your grandparents divorced and so forth. But this is why it's great to really do your research and see what your psychic is offering. Are they just going to give you a reading and that's it, $200 and you're out? Because if you ask me, that's not worth it. I'd like to have a
Right.
reading and know, is there something I need to heal from?
Well,
How
and
can I change the trajectory of this outcome? Is it possible? Because there are many, many possibilities, right?
right. There are infinite
Especially
outcomes. There
Absolutely,
are
especially
infinite.
if we raise that vibration, right? If
Yes.
we're in a funk, we're going to continue to bring in negative energy.
Yes.
But if we raise that vibration, we're going to bring in amazing energy to help us do amazing things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, the thing that cracks me up is when people will want to go to psychics, someone they don't know at all, but they'll put all their faith, all their trust in someone, and that person may be good, that person may not be good, and that person may just say, "Oh, well, that's just what I see." And how is that helping the person? I don't know if, let's say that you happen to meet with someone who's very intuitive and can give you information, but they just say, "Well, this is just what I see and you'll just have to deal with it." And and there's no follow-up to that. Well, what does that mean exactly? How do you heal from that? What are you doing? Are you doing a pattern that you've done your whole life? Are you doing a pattern that comes out of a trauma that you have? Are you doing a pattern that is generational? Like, there's more to it that's going on. And is there something that you need to heal from? Because if there is, then you can be proactive in your life. You can empower yourself, and you may not wind up with that person, or you may, but the reality is that as long as you keep working on yourself, you keep growing and you keep clearing out those lower vibrations, that trauma, that victim state that you may feel like you're in or justified in, that might have served you at one point but is no longer serving you anymore. How can you move past that so that you now take that horrible situation and find the lesson and become empowered? That is where the gift is. That is where you become strong. That is where you become wise. And that is how you move on and raise your vibration.
Absolutely. And that's the kind of person that I want to get a psychic reading from. And I know it sounds crazy to say that, but that's the service I provide for my clients. But I don't see that often. More often than not, I see a cold hearted, here's your reading, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I want some knowledge. Is there a way to change this trajectory? What are your thoughts? What are you picking up? Because things can be better, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and Becky, you said it before. I can't remember if you said it in this episode or one of the previous two that we talked about, but you learned that the only person that was holding you back was you. And that's the beauty of it. When we realize that we are the ones that hold us back, but we are also the ones that can make the change and move forward, there is the gift. There is the empowerment. That is everything that you need to know to take one step forward that moves you beyond where you are today.
I love that.
Yeah,
I
it's
really
pretty
do.
cool.
Wow. Okay, we went a little bit off topic. Sorry,
We did.
y'all, but you know what? It was really important to hear. And
We did.
if you work with me, you know that I'm spiritually guided. And before I start a session, before I do anything, I always ask Spirit to please work with me and, may what needs to be heard be said.
You
Right?
do. I do love that. Absolutely. And if we bring it back around to how we connect with our loved ones, I'll bring it back around right now. Just, healing yourself, healing those parts of yourself that are triggered or unhealed.
I'm glad you said that because I'm going to share something with you guys that's really personal to me. I had a reading, and it was one of the few times this lady was able to, connect with my dad. And he said he was, sorry for what I went through and understood what I had to do. And so I really took that to heart and I was like, what do you mean? And I heard, you need to heal.
Mm,
Like, we didn't do a good job with you. And I thought, maybe I just needed those lessons. It's okay. Don't feel bad. But I can feel my father's sadness when I
mm.
when I heard that message, and I was like, wow, even our loved ones who have crossed want us to heal. They
Yeah, they
want us to
do.
heal. They really do. And so I think that is an important message to share with all of you that are listening, and that is that your loved ones, they want you to heal. They want you to clear that generational trauma. They want you to
Hmm.
heal their ancestors, right? Because
Hmm.
they're living another life right now. You may
Yeah.
not believe this, but your great 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 grandmother is alive somewhere. She's probably born, she's probably young, but she's more than likely a different version of her is out there. So this is why it's important to clear that generational trauma, that ancestral trauma, because we reincarnate, right? And a lot
Mhm.
of times we bring back those emotions, those feelings, those
Mhm.
traumas with us. So
Mhm.
this is why we want to clear that energy now, so that when they reincarnate, guess what? They're not
Mhm.
taking that with them.
Absolutely.
And some people will ask, well, I'm a healer, and that's funny that I was never guided to clear any ancestral trauma. Sometimes you just do it, right? For
Mhm.
me, it was actually a little voice where I was laying there giving myself Reiki, because a lot of you guys don't know, I do have an inflammatory situation going on, and I should probably be in a lot of pain, but I'm not, because of Reiki.
Yay. Good job,
Um,
Becky.
but I do Reiki for like at least 2 hours a day on myself
Mhm.
and to others. But anyhow, I was laying there and I heard it's time to clear some ancestral trauma. And I'm like, what?
Mhm.
And I'm listening like, huh, what?
Mhm.
And I heard, and this is how I know I'm supposed to be male, apparently. There
Okay.
was something that was it was a curse that was put on the males and all kinds of stuff. And
Mm.
anyhow, long story short, I remember thinking, well, I'm not a male, I'm female. Why am I doing this? So y'all, don't be surprised if you have to clear out something that was specific to somebody else. It happens. But I remember I was like, okay, and I just listened and I followed the prompts. I gave those
Mhm.
symbols that were needed. I used karuna,
Mhm.
and I can tell you things really changed for a lot of males in my family for the best.
Wow.
So I will leave it at that. Just know that if you listen, spirit will lead you in the right direction. Just a friendly reminder, I teach Reiki at holyfirehealers.com. You can go to the website to see when I have a class. Again, I have a lot of students who are going to become teachers that are teaching the class with me. So it's always a lot of fun. There's always something new to learn. And if you're ready to start that journey, that healing journey, then holyfirehealers.com.
And I can be found at gavempowers.com. I'm an intuitive writer, traditionally trained. If you're interested in books, scripts, articles, or marketing, I'm your gal. Thank you for joining us at the Intuitives, Healers, and Mystics podcast, where we discover stories and practices, explore sage wisdom, and reveal century-old answers and modern sensibilities that heal and raise consciousness today. Remember to share the love. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe. We'll see you next week.